Hello. Today we would like to have a conversation really around the subject of mental health and well-being. And I brought together Luke and Sean, who are going to discuss a challenge around mental health and well-being that will be running in 2022. What I'd like to do is get everyone to introduce themselves first, and then we'll then run on to the topic of the webinar. So obviously, Luke, I think we need to come to you first. If you could tell us who you are and a little bit about what this is about, and then we'll move on to Sean.
Thanks, Richard. Yeah, it's great to be here to chat to everyone, and welcome for jumping on this webinar. My name's Luke Tyburski. I am an Australian, but I do live in the UK. I've been here for nearly 15 years. And my background is a professional footballer, bounced around the world playing in the lower leagues, following my childhood dream. And since I retired over 10 years ago, I've thrown myself into the world of ultra endurance sports. That's running 100 miles nonstop down Mount Everest, across the tropical forest in China, doing cross-continental endurance challenges and triathlons and all these crazy things. And I speak about these adventures on stages all around the world as a keynote speaker. And also I pass on my knowledge from these adventures and also my background in exercise science as a running coach. Now, this all sounds like I lived the most amazing life, and I truly do feel like that I have, but I've also battled with my mental health for over 10 years. And it was about 7 or 8 years that I didn't even speak about it. So I battled with depression, insomnia, binge eating, and twice I wanted to end my own life. So I decided to come up with a project where I wanted to share the platform I have and also raise awareness and money for mental health for everyone up and down the UK. And it's called the Speak Up Tour. And I'm going to leave it there and pass over to Jennifer and just tease everyone about what the Speak Up Tour is. And we'll get to that a little bit later. So Jennifer, over to you.
Thanks, Luke. My name's Jennifer Clark, and I'm Operations Manager for CSRA accreditation. I spent a previous life in the construction world for 28 years, starting on site and ending up as Senior Vice President for Skanska, looking at sustainable strategies, both environment and in the social field. I left that job to have more of a work-life balance, look after my elderly parents, but just sort of retune to earth, I suppose, and have a better work-life balance. I've suffered my own mental health issues with bereavement, and it drove me to be a coach. So I'm also a qualified executive coach and support other people with the issues that they battle with, especially in the workplace where you've often got to appear to have it all together, but inside we've all got some similar issues going on. So that's me, and over to Sean.
Thank you very much, Jennifer and Luke and Richard, for having me along as well. So my name's Sean. My background is nowhere near as diverse or exciting as Luke's, that's for sure. But a little bit about me. So myself and my two co-founders set up Point 3 Wellbeing back in early 2018. And we basically came about setting this business up, which is there to support the wellbeing and mental health of busy people like we used to be in the workplace, because we realized that actually more by luck than by judgment, we had managed to negotiate all of the many challenges that people were experiencing in day-to-day life and in the workplace. And we wanted to go away and better understand how we could create some simple things that those busy individuals could do to better support themselves on a day-to-day basis. So we set up Point 3 Wellbeing. We hail from the busy corporate world of events marketing, often cited as the 5th most stressful industry out there outside of the military and the emergency services. And so we do know a fair thing or two about stress, and we also do understand that busyness often can get in the way of health and taking the necessary action that we need. So for the last 4 years, we've been running Point 3, and our very simple mission is to help as many people as possible to stress less and to smile more. And hopefully we'll get to do a little bit of that today.
Thank you, Sean, Jennifer and Luke. And my name is Richard Collins. I'm the founder of CSR Accreditation, the UK's only accreditation body for social responsibility, although we now have offices growing up around the world in places like Bangladesh and Bahrain. Like Jennifer as well, I've had issues with my mental health, especially around bereavement, and know the importance of talking about it, and also the importance of good health and how that can help balance good mental health as well. So CSRA are absolutely delighted to be partnering with Luke and the Speak Up Tour and to support this campaign as we run through 2022. So we really look forward to exploring this campaign and talking about it over the next 25-30 minutes. I'm going to share my screen now, and then we can start to get into nitty-gritty of what this is all about. So basically, this is the Speak Up Tour. It's going to run, I believe, through all of 2022. Luke's going to talk a bit about the challenge, and I was joking with him earlier on about the challenge, that his physical challenge is probably the easy part of this. The difficult part is really getting people to engage with mental health and well-being, and certainly mental health, and having a conversation around it. But I wanted to put this into a framework around why social responsibility is an important platform to use to address an organization's mental health and well-being agenda. So CSRA wanted to kind of redefine social responsibility. I think it got a bit lost and confused over the previous 10 or 20 years. So we wanted to develop a new, relevant, holistic framework that delivers an up-to-date standard for social responsibility. And the important thing is that standard is supported by the CSR 4 pillars of environment, workplace, community, and philanthropy. A standard that states that social responsibility should be for every organization, and that the C needs to be more inclusive. So we have a diagram that really kind of expresses, what that is. And we kind of look at social responsibility allowing you to enrich the quality of lives for all by investing in social value as an essential part of an organization's culture. This provides purpose and impact and will ensure a sustainable and profitable business. And it will help you to build a better world for future generations by improving the environment and ensuring a cohesive community to live and work in. And below that, we look at the inclusive C. So traditionally, CSR meant corporate social responsibility. And, we wanted that to be more inclusive. We wanted the C to stand for so much more than corporate. So we want social responsibility to be the common denominator that runs through everything from sole traders to multinationals. The C can now stand for company, for community, for charity, for consumer, for citizens, and more importantly, for collective, that sense of collective or collaborative social responsibility, something that we can all be part of and all organizations can engage with from the top down and the bottom up, so that individuals within an organization can have the ability to discuss what their purpose and value is and how that can be aligned with the organization they work with. And we know that good social responsibility is actually a really great way to help with mental health, because it's about something good. It's about doing something good. It gives purpose and value, which we have as individuals. And I think what we've seen is this pandemic has come in, the other C, COVID, that has introduced a different way of thinking about social responsibility and about caring about people around us. So, it was very important that we define social responsibility as something that was an emotional investment. But we also want businesses and organizations to understand that there is a return on that social investment, that if you get this right, then it's good for business as well as good for the planet and the world that we live in. So we understand the benefits of taking care of our physical health, but for many, taking care of mental health doesn't hold the same priority. Why is this? I wanted to ask Sean really to kind of come in on this conversational piece really and address, the state of mental health in the country at the moment and where this is going in 2022, and how we can do something positive to bring this conversation out and address it.
Thanks very much, Richard. I think when it comes to that final C that you mentioned, COVID, a lot of people are blaming or accrediting the demise of mental health potentially across the country, the increase in people struggling simply down to COVID. But actually, the studies, and particularly one from Gallup that's recently come out, who really do carry out some really thorough studies into the state of the mental health within the nation, and particularly within organizations, that shows that actually mental health has been on the decline since for over a decade now. So whilst we can certainly attribute the increase to COVID, it's probably also the fact that now the conversation is, and I'm certainly not saying it's been normalized, but people are starting to feel a little bit more open having that conversation. We certainly want to get to a point where it really is a conversation that is normalized across all industries, sectors, in the workplace, outside of the workplace. Now, of course, when it comes to mental health and why are so many folks struggling in silence? Well, I think we can put that down to one word, and that would be stigma. And of course, stigma is having a huge impact. And actually, there's a recent statistic that shows that more than 60% of people feel that stigma is more challenging than the mental health issue that they are actually faced with. So certainly it's stigma, and it's stigma that we do want to start breaking down. And the more that we have this conversation around mental health, the more that folks like Luke are going out there and trying to get this conversation really going, the more that stigma will be broken down. And I think we can all do a little bit of that by being mental health ambassadors, whether that's with our families at home, whether that's with the colleagues in the workplace, whoever it might be. The more that we have this conversation, the more training that we get, and however that might look like. That might be dialing into a webcast like this. It might be taking some corporate training in the workplace. It might simply be picking up a book and just doing a little bit of self-care. Whatever it is that we can do, I think that's going to really support this, hopefully, reduction in mental health issues, and instead start to help people consider mental health much like they consider physical health. Mental health doesn't need to be perceived as simply a negative connotation. Actually, we all have mental health, much like we all have physical health. So I guess that's my thoughts on where we're at this point in time, particularly within the workplace. And the fact that we've been going through so much change has no doubt had a huge impact, but this can't simply be put down to COVID. The studies do show it. This has been on the rise for more than 10 years.
Thank you, Sean. And I suppose, it's about normalizing that conversation. So it's not an extreme conversation. It is actually one that, and one that actually organizations ought to lead with as well. So rather than relying on staff to come forward and have a conversation, but to actually create a space, a safe space, and perhaps that conversation can be had, at an early stage, maybe even a regular review to find out whether people are struggling and they do need that support.
Absolutely. I think there's a really interesting book that's been written by Daniel Coyle, who has written the Talent Code, but he's also come up with a culture code where he's gone and looked at what are the highest performing organizations doing on a day-to-day basis. And it very much comes down to 3 different traits. But the first one is creating safety within that organization. By creating safety, that enables people to therefore feel that they can be vulnerable, which is the second trait. And from there, the third trait is more about then, how do you use those first 2 to actually start to drive higher performance? Well, that's when you all have that common goal or sense of purpose to work towards. But when it comes to creating safety in the organization, I often believe that it actually has to come from the top and trickle down. It's incredibly challenging. If you're new into an organization, you have to have that sense that safety is being created within the organization, and it's got to come from the senior team. So whether that's maybe a senior member of the team, maybe someone on the board, actually opening up about their own story, being vocal about having the mental health conversation, that's an important place to start. And from there, it can start to trickle down, and it will really start to support the organization normalizing that conversation and breaking down that stigma.
Excellent. Yes.
I can just add to that, Richard, talking about issues, mental health pre-COVID. And one of the topics that I've been involved with a little bit lately is around menopause in the workplace. And talk about stigma, that's very much stigmatized and not talked about. But we have seen a real increase in that topic being discussed lately. And a lot of large organizations, they want women in senior roles, they want women on the board, and that often comes with experience and age, and therefore the menopause. And there are large companies that are making that safe environment for people to talk about. And some large organizations, they have thousands of menopausal women working for them, and they do nothing about it or talk about it. So I think you're right. It's about making it a safe space, having some role models that are willing to open up and say what's been happening for them, how it's affected their careers, and even their marriages, and make that safe space at work for people in different pockets of mental health to open up.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. It's a very good point. And also, you know, the point about, you know, individuals, whether they're men or women in senior roles as well as junior roles. I mean, mental health doesn't choose who to affect. It's across the entire organization. And therefore, you know, it is something that has to be addressed at a senior level. You know, you could have, you know, managing directors who work in very lonely spaces very often because they don't feel there's someone to share that with, and of course, you know, junior staff coming in who may have come into the business with issues that they are scared to talk about, and actually, you know, affects their ability to work. So it is, you know, it's all encompassing, isn't it? And across many different things like the menopause, and like bereavement, or like caring, or you know, whatever it might be. So what I wanted to do then really was, you know, the point of this is to have a conversation about it, and is to join that conversation. And Luke, you've come up with what just is an amazing program to create some engagement and awareness and visibility, and not just to do it once, but to have a number of conversations throughout the country. Well, first of all, yeah, would you like to talk a bit about that, and then we can move that to how that's going to be achieved?
So the Speak Up Tour has been something I've been working on since the end of 2017, and it really drove from two things, and it was quite fitting, Sean and Richard, yourself, and also Jennifer, when you mentioned you know, the menopause in the workplace, you all touched on the two things that are driving me to do this. It's the stigma about mental health, and also being vulnerable. And the one thing that I've realized since I started to battle with depression in 2008, and I didn't really start speaking about it until 2015, was the amount of stigma that was around and is still around. And I only realized when I started to open up, when I started to be vulnerable, sharing my truth, sharing what I'd been through and was going through, when I started to see a shift in myself. So I had my autobiography published in 2017, Chasing Extreme, and I was brutally honest, and I shared everything, all the mental health dramas that I went through, all the battles, everything, and I was completely vulnerable. And the amount of people that have come to me and said, wow, seeing your vulnerability has really shifted my attention of my own mental health. Seeing your vulnerability has helped me ask more questions of other people. So being vulnerable with my truth, I feel like I'm starting to do my bit to break down this stigma. Now, there are so many more conversations around mental health, as Sean mentioned, now that COVID's been around. But what the Speak Up Tour is, in short, is a month-long conversation up and down the UK. I say a month long, and I'm going to extend that in a second. But the actual physical challenge is a month long. And we're going to have 10 live stream conversations throughout these 31 days. And those 10 live stream conversations will be hosted by someone who hosts already 2 mental health podcasts. I'll be there, plus 2 other people from the local area. Some of profile, some who are just from that area and have a story to tell. And what we want to do with those live panel conversations is go deeper than the superficial conversations that we have on a day-to-day basis. And I use superficial as the purest sense of the word, just talking about mental health on the surface. I want to have these deep conversations to show people it's okay to be vulnerable with your truth. It's okay to share how you're feeling and what you're thinking with others. So if through being vulnerable, we start to really make a break and crack that stigma. So the Speak Up Tour is going to be in June next year, 2022, but it's going to launch in April, 2 months prior to I start in John O'Groats and spend 1 week cycling the entire length of the UK before I throw my bike in the ocean, turn around and run, averaging a marathon and a half all the way back to where I started. So that's nearly 2,000 miles in 31 days. Land's End to John O'Groats cycling, John O'Groats to Land's End running. And during that time, there's going to be 10 live streamed panel conversations to really dig deep into this conversation with everything surrounding mental health, and also trying to show people that being vulnerable with your truth is a superpower that we all have inside of us, to really try and break down that stigma.
Yeah, thank you very much. And as I said, you're doing, the challenge is incredible. The physical challenge is incredible. But we talk about, that physical health and mental health, and everyone talks a lot about physical health. What we can eat and exercising and 40 minutes a day or whatever it might be, but there isn't the same level of conversation around mental health, and that mental gym is really important, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And there are so many elements to the Speak Up tour. As I said, we're going to launch it 2 months prior and then continue on after June to have different conversations, to invite people on to do other live webinars, to have recorded webinars, to create more content around it. So those 10 live streamed panels that we're going to have, people can watch in real time, but they'll also be recorded and housed on the website, so people can go back to it and watch it in their own time. And also, if people come to the Speak Up tour on day 7, day 12, day 19, or even after we've completed the project, there's this resource there that they can go back into and see it. And the one thing that people will first see about this as well, like Luke cycling lands in the John O'Groats and then turning around and running back down, that's got to be really, you've got to be mentally tough to do that. And whether you're trying to take care of your own mental health or take care of others who are battling with their mental health, or even you're trying to take care of a team in the workplace, what I want to show by doing this physical challenge is that being vulnerable with how you're feeling, and I'm going to be very open with how I'm feeling on a day-to-day basis, cycling and running, but also whatever happens on a certain day doesn't have to define your future. If I have a bad day while cycling, you know what? Tomorrow's a new day. I get up and I go again. I learn from the day before, use that information, and I get on my bike or I put on my running shoes and I start taking, figuratively and literally, one step at a time. And these are the messages that we're going to be promoting on a daily basis throughout from April when we launch all the way through to the end of 2022. And one of the most exciting parts of this, of the whole Speak Up tour, and I'm really excited about this, is the virtual interactive challenges that we have. So it's not just watching Luke doing the physical challenge. We know there's a physical side that can help with mental health, of being active and moving your body. So I wanted to create this social impact for having people physically do something as well. So when we launch in April, in May, the virtual challenge is going to begin, and that's going to be 1,000 miles from John O'Groats down to Land's End virtually on a platform where you can see your route as you go down. Now you might be thinking, okay, you've got 2 months to cover 1,000 miles. That's still a hell of a long way. But the great thing about this is we want it to be interactive. So you can do it individually. You can do it as pairs. You could even do it as teams. So in an organization, every team that people work on can be part of the interactive challenge, and you can all collectively do 1,000 miles, not just of running or cycling. However, you can track yourself moving in any sort of direction. So on an app on your phone or a watch, whether it's playing squash or tennis or running or walking, hiking, kayaking, swimming, whatever it is, all of those miles of you moving go to the interactive virtual challenge with part of your team. And that's one of the things that I think is really going to elevate this project. It's not just about watching it. It's not just about looking at the content and engaging with the content, but on a daily basis, you can be part of the Speak Up tour. Your communities, your employees can be part of the Speak Up tour by participating in one of the virtual challenges.
Thank you, Luke. And Sean, that collaboration, that's a really important part, isn't it? It's great to listen to people through these conversations, but to have something in which you're challenging yourself with others, with a group of people. I like the idea that it can be a team within a business. I mean, that also is a powerful way to kind of address, mental health in the workplace.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it kind of comes back to Daniel Coyle's third trait, that common sense of purpose or a goal to work towards. And if you're doing that in a group, and you as a group know which way that you're headed, whichever way that might be, then that's actually really, really powerful. And I think the thing that I'm absolutely loving about this is the fact that you can get a group together, however small or big, and actually consider doing something like this, which is that physical challenge. But also, hopefully during that, as that group, it's not just how many miles have I logged on Strava, it's how are you doing and how are you really doing after that, so that we can start to build that self-awareness piece. Because I think particularly as busy individuals, it's so easy to forget to check in with ourselves. And much to Luke's point about the fact that he'll be totally honest with himself as to how he's doing each and every day, well, that builds that awareness, and then hopefully from there you can start to take some positive action to support either yourself or to support others within the workplace. So I'd like to think that that physical challenge will then lead to those participants having more open and honest conversations with themselves beyond just the physical, and moving into the mental side of things. We know how interlinked these things are. So it's yeah, fantastic opportunity to get that conversation going through a really interesting and kind of goal-orientated route. Love it.
Fantastic. And you know, just Jennifer, I know you can touch on this a bit, but you know, that's really one of our pillars, isn't it? The workplace pillar, you know, which is encouraging businesses to be socially responsible and to evidence that social responsibility, so we show impact. And what a great way to do that with something like this, because you're logging those miles. And I assume that, you know, it's not just about whether you as an individual have issues with mental health and wellbeing, it's about how you can support others as well.
Yes, I think the volunteering with organisations, that the whole workplace, offering people, staff, what they want to do, so engage with them, ask them what they want to do rather than make that assumption, but allowing them to take time to do something that supports their inner soul, if you like. It's not about necessarily always productivity to do with the company, and we found that the companies that we speak to who have been through the CSR accreditation, the companies that do well are the ones where the staff are the happiest, they stay longer. It's better for the company in terms of not recruiting all the time. But, you know, at the end of the day, when their families go home for Christmas and they say, you know, how are you getting on in your business? How's the job going? They don't say, oh yeah, pre-tax profits were up 0.25%. They don't say that. They say, oh, it's a fantastic company. They allow us to do volunteering. We all went and did this or did that. You know, my boss cares about me. You know, we're allowed to speak up and engage with the vision ahead. So it's really about that workplace pillar and encouraging people to engage, which helps productivity. So it's not about being healthy and happy or have a successful business. They're so much intertwined, and you get one right, you'll get the rest right.
Well, like we like to say, don't we, that the future shape of business is going to be measured as much in social value as it will in financial value. And, you know, and I think, you know, it's important to you know, to provide opportunities. This is that emotional investment. And, you know, Sean, we have a Gallup poll as well that was done a few years ago, and it was looking at engagement in the workplace. And in the I mean, it was a global Gallup poll, but it was split down into regions. And for the UK, only 11% of the workforce were engaged. 68% not engaged, and the remaining actively disengaged. And the three big drivers to create engagement, number one was purpose and value. You know, was aligning. So as human beings, when we go home and we care about stuff, you know, that has to be mirrored and matched in the workplace. And mental health and wellbeing is one of those big areas. And one of the other one of those three was autonomy, giving staff the opportunity to make decisions, to have an influence, an impact on what they want to do. And number three was recognizing and valuing your staff, so supporting them in a way that helps them to, you know, to deal with these problems. So you don't just shut the front door when you leave home and leave all of that behind and come into the workplace. That actually there is a connection between the workplace and your home and obviously the community and these topics. So, you know, it is all linked together. Obviously, that's a quick map really of your route, Luke, and how that's going to work. Presumably, yeah. You're starting in although it's missing, you're starting in Land's End, but
I am starting in Land's End, and yeah, that's pretty much that is exactly the bike route, hitting all the major cities as we go up the UK. And then I'll be honest, the run leg, I'm running the most direct route because it is going to be tougher than cycling. But I am going through other major cities as well, like Liverpool, coming back through Bristol as well on the way back down. And, you know, I've said I'm excited about many different things like the virtual challenges, but the thing about the Speak Up Tour is it's not just this 1 month. As I said, we're going to launch it in April, and it's going to be going out throughout all of June 2022, or throughout 2022, not just in June. And we're looking for a couple of organizations who have the similar values of what the Speak Up Tour is all about, who want to get on board and help make this happen, to cover the basic expenses of our very small team who will be helping me go up and down the UK. We have many different activations that we would love to put on the Speak Up Tour, like a documentary. I've worked with an award-winning documentary maker before. I have 2 documentaries about previous challenges, and we would really love to be able to share from a broader content perspective of what it was like in the middle of the Speak Up Tour, how I was feeling, the live panel discussions that are maybe, with the guests off camera when they're not being streamed live. So there's so much scope to this, and there's so many different activations that we can do, but we need some organizations to get on board to help this out. And as I mentioned, it's not just about the 1 month. I can come into the organization and I introduce myself and do one of my keynote talks at the start of the year and follow it up after June, after I complete the challenge. And your employees can hear it first from me, what it was like, can ask me questions while I'm in the room. So as I said, it's not just about June. That is when the big, sort of the fireworks is happening, but we're going to be building up to June by getting it promoted, having potentially some live events. People can come and run with me in different places in the UK before I begin. And then after as well, the same thing is we want to continue this conversation, not just for the month, but for the whole year, and have some organizations who really want to get involved to actually make this one of the pillars of their social impact for the year and really feel like they're part of it. As I've said, this is not about me, this challenge. This is about making an impact in the UK, of having this conversation up and down the UK, having something to maybe have a conversation starter and say, Luke was talking about this, and actually I feel like that too. So it's, it's that starting the conversation sometimes is the most difficult piece to that puzzle. And that's what I want to do. I want to reveal all my vulnerabilities again when I'm going up and down, and show that if we are vulnerable with our truth, then we can start to really, truly break down that stigma that is the mental health conversation.
That's right. And it is a fabulous opportunity for an organisation to get on board, to sponsor, to engage with this. It's not, as you say, a one-off act. It's not just a spike. I think it's a year. I think it's going to run well beyond June. I think June is going to create that visible impact. But those conversations have got to resonate, through to next year and the years to come. And I think, to become an ambassador, to support this, to engage your staff with this, to be part of that documentary, to be part of the process, and to have a narrative and a story that you can tell month after month as we're tracking what Luke's doing and what the conversations are, and how organizations can get involved with those conversations. So we can look at that geography where your business is or your organization is, and how you can tap into that live conversation. So I think there's huge opportunities for businesses to kind of come in and along that is to raise money for the mental health charity. That 31 days of live interactive conversations, as I say, which is just in June, but promoting mental health awareness. It's not, I think only, you're going to launch in April, but I think we can start to have conversations in January, February, and then, throughout that. And as we've said right at the beginning, to normalise mental health conversations, to having open and honest conversations around these things. And I think what a great way for you to, those companies that come forward and support this, financially to help you fund and run this event successfully, to talk to their staff directly, and then to follow that up. What an amazing opportunity that is.
Yeah, you said it all there, Richard, exactly. So we are trying to raise £100,000, and the conversation, it's going to hopefully get people's interest throughout June. And the way that we're going to do that is through these 10 live stream panel discussions. Although the general public and employees can watch this via, several platforms in their own homes, but also we're going to invite the local press to these 10 live stream panel discussions, and any potentially organizations to get on board. We can invite people to come and watch these live stream panels in person. And then every city that we do these in, we're going to have the press there from the local community. So we really want to inject what we're doing through those communities. And then the plan is towards the end of the project, when there is a big story to tell, when there is a big buzz, when everyone, hopefully, not just in organizations who get on board, but everyone in the UK is speaking about this as a conversation starter. Have you heard this guy who's cycling and running up and down the UK and he's doing it for this? And did you hear him talk about this? These are the types of things that I'm hoping are going to happen. Then we can start approaching the national press to really make this a national project through the media, to elevate this conversation, and not just for June, but throughout the rest of the year. And that is the plan, to make this something that everyone in the UK is talking about, not about me, speaking about the project and speaking up about their own mental health.
And how will people be able to donate?
Yeah, so really simple. There'll be a link on the website, and the website to Speak Up Tour. It's live and functioning. We just obviously haven't launched anything yet, and there'll be a link on that once we hit live on the project, and there'll also be a number where people can text straight to it. And the other thing is the live interactive virtual challenges that people can do with teams and organizations. There's going to be a small fee that's going to literally cover you to be part of these challenges, and that fee is going to charity as well. So if you want to text through a donation, go through a link on a website, or just sign up to the virtual challenge, and there'll be a small fee that'll go directly to charity. That's how people can donate.
That's fantastic. And for some reason, my PowerPoint has cropped these slides a little bit. So for more information, for people to come and say, yes, we'd like to sponsor this, we'd like to be involved. Luke, who are they contacting? How are they contacting you?
You can contact me at luke@luketyburski.com, or there is a contact page on speakuptour.com, or even just get in touch with someone over at CSR Accreditation, because we have officially teamed up together. So if you are interested and want to hear more, either get in touch with Richard or Jennifer over at CSR Accreditation, or myself via the contact page at speakuptour.com, or luke@luketyburski.com, and we can arrange to have a further conversation.
That's absolutely right. And so for me, that's rich@csr-accreditation.co.uk. And Jennifer?
Jennifer at csr-accreditation.co.uk. Look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, an absolutely phenomenal opportunity and an amazing challenge, and a great way to address the conversation of mental health and well-being within your organization, to show that leadership, and to normalize this. And as I say, the great thing about what Luke's created is that it is a year of activity, really, so absolutely fantastic stuff. So thank you very much. And thank you, Sean, for coming on as well and talking about your perspective of mental health, and those three things about the vulnerability and creating safe spaces to have those conversations, really important. And Jennifer, thank you as well for joining us today. And thank you, Luke, as well. It's an absolutely great thing, and we are really, really, delighted to be involved. And, we really want to make this an amazing campaign.
Thanks very much, Richard. And also I just want to say thank you for CSR Accreditation for teaming up with the Speak Up Tour. And I think this is a great opportunity for companies to show their accreditation, gain their accreditation through becoming part of a project that is going to make true social impact. So it's going to be a great way for people to get on board with having that social impact through being part of the Speak Up Tour.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, almost forgotten to mention it is, yes, I mean, this counts massively towards becoming a socially responsible business and becoming accredited and independently recognised. And one of the main reasons why is because we're going to be able to evidence, that commitment and that impact. And that's what it's really about, really, is making a positive impact and changing things for the better, improving the quality of life for people by addressing their mental health. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.